Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing questions of work, energy and power. Before that, you must be knowing that the dates of JEE mains and advance has been announced. Mains is in the mid of July and NEET is in the end of July and advanced is in August, like around end of August. So you have quite a lot of time. And if actually somebody really wants, they can finish the entire syllabus with revision in this much time period. Like it's too much actually. So hope you utilize this particular time period. For last couple of days I could not upload multiple videos of this DPQs, but for the next 2 days I'm quite free, so I'll try to upload multiple as means as much as I can. I'll try to finish up like at least a major portion of this question practicing. So let's start with the day 6. Um, First question: if a machine is lubricated with oil, you must have seen in industries and sometimes when we work on the machineries which are in the house, um, we put oil in that for the lubrication. So the question is, if a machine is lubricated, what exactly happens for the means after the lubrication of the machine? The friction reduces, and because of the friction, the reduction of the friction, efficiency of the machine increases. So the efficiency, the mechanical efficiency of the machine increases. This should be the correct result. Mechanical advantage: what is the difference between the mechanical advantage and mechanical efficiency? Mechanical advantage depends on the construction. I don't know whether you know this or not, but if you arrange pulleys, or like if you attach pulleys in different situations and in different conditions, so the force, the application of the force changes. Like um, you are pulling, you are holding a weight of around 2 kg or 10 kg. That depends on the construction, that depends on the mechanism in which the pulleys are attached with each other, the ropes are constrained, things like that. So basically the mechanical advantage is something which is defined, or which is measured because of the construction of the machine. What we can change is only the efficiency, nothing else. Anyway, so the mechanical efficiency of the machine increases, nothing happens to the mechanical advantage. Two masses of 1 gram and 4 gram are moving with equal kinetic energy, the ratio of the magnitudes. The questions of these kinds will mostly be there. So what you have to remember here is that whatever is equal, you have to convert the relation of which you have to find out the ratio in the other term. For example, the ratio of the magnitudes of their momenta. So here momentum is P is equals to mv, but the quantity which is equal, that is given to us, is kinetic energy. So I'll have to convert it into that, and I can say that most of you must be remembering also, it's under root 2 mk. I can write it like m square v square under root. If I multiply and divide it by 2, half mv square is the kinetic energy, so it eventually turns out to be under root 2 mk. Now, they're saying their two masses, 1 gram and 4 gram, are moving with equal kinetic energy. What is the ratio of their momentum? So P1 over P2 is going to be root over 2 into 1 into K, the kinetic energy is equal, divided by root over 2 into 4 into K. I'm not changing it into grams, kilograms and all, because the ratio is going to be cancelled out. So you can find it out whatever it is. A body is moved along a straight line by a machine delivering constant power. The distance moved by the body in time t is proportional to. Okay, the power is constant here, so we need to understand about this particular situation. P is equals to Fv. Power is equals to basically dw by dt, or work per unit time. So work is Fs, F dot S, or effectively if we get like S by T is generally we define as V. They have asked about the distance moved by the body in time t is proportional to. So I can say that Fv is a constant. Let's assume the constant to be k. I can write F as ma, V is nothing but a constant, m, A can be written as dv by dt into V is equals to k. We have not yet got any expression of displacement or distance till now. We have to convert it in that format. Okay, so I can write it as v dv is equals to k over m dt. If I integrate it, I will eventually get the expression for v, that is going to Remember, here we are just concerned about the proportionality, so we don't even have to find out the exact relation. We are just concerned about the variation, like how does it vary. So vdv is equals to k by m dt, and it's going to be vdv integrate if we do like v square by 2, and should be equal to k by mt. So plus whatever constant it is. So I can say that v square is proportional to t, but so therefore v is proportional to under root t. But we have to find out the displacement or distance, the distance proportionality. So v can be written as ds over dt, that is proportional to root t. So t to the power half, or I can say that ds is proportional to root t dt. If you integrate t to the power half dt, you're going to get half plus 1, that is t to the power 3 by 2. So this is displacement or distance that is proportional to t to the power 3 by 2 order. So this should be the result, C. If you solve it, like you'll have to solve it here and then you will get the result. Moving further, a particle of mass m is moving in a circular path of constant radius r such that its centripetal acceleration AC varies with time t as AC is equals to k square RT square, where k is a constant. The power delivered to the particles by the force acting on it is, again, it's a similar kind of situation. You have been given with the centripetal acceleration, you have been provided with the centripetal acceleration, and you need to find out the power delivered to the particles. You can approach the particular type of situation in one way, that to find out the power you need to find the rate of change in work with respect to time, and for work you need some sort of energy. So just try to find out the kinetic energy, because here it is moving. So the kinetic energy using centripetal acceleration, you can approach it this way: k square RT square, that is the centripetal acceleration. I can write it as v square over r is nothing but k square RT square. It's v square is equals to k square RT square. I can multiply it with m and divide by half both sides. So this is the expression for the kinetic energy. The kinetic energy comes out to be as mk square RT square by 2. If we find out the rate of change in kinetic energy with respect to time, dk by dt, so effectively it is nothing but power which will be delivered at that situation. So it's going to be everything else is a constant. The radius and mass, everything else is a constant. The derivative of t square is going to be 2t. So it's going to be mk square r into 2t. So 2 mk square rt. Oh, divided by 2 is also already there, so 2 will get cancelled out. Mk square RT, this should be the result. Mk square RT. There is no such result. Let me check what happened. Okay, yeah, there's one mistake here. You can see R, if it goes here, it will become R square, so it should be squared here. And if it is squared here, so it's going to be Mk square R square T. This should be the result. Option B. Moving further, a stone tied to a string of length L is whirled in a vertical circle. We have a stone which is tied to a string of length. We are whirling it in a vertical circle with the other end of the string at the center. At a certain instant of time, the stone is at its lowest position. That means it is somewhere here. You should remember that the minimum speed which should be given to the stone, which is at the lowest position, that should be root 5 gr. Here it is L, so root 5 gl to complete the whole circle, the minimum speed. And if it should be a loose thread, again, at its lowest position and a speed u, that u is given to you, which we normally say as that root 5 gl, and but that is the minimum speed. Here they haven't told that the speed is minimum. It can be anything. So let's say I provided it a speed u. The magnitude of the change in its velocity as it reaches a position where the string is horizontal is. Okay, see, this is the circle we are talking about, and we have two positions. One is this and another is this. In the present situation, the particle is somewhere here and it has a speed u. But when it reaches here, it has some speed, I don't know, let it be v. The question here asks the magnitude of the change in its velocity as it reaches a position. Change in its velocity. Now, it is a very important point that when we are talking about the change in velocity, we have to talk about v minus u, final minus initial, vector, because they are talking about the magnitude of the change in velocity. So first we need to find out the vector v minus u, then we'll have to calculate the magnitude. whatever it is. The most common problem here is that people forget that, okay, fine, velocity they are asking, so it's a vector quantity, you need to subtract it vectorially, they simply subtract it. Anyway, this is u. So at this point the energy, let's assume this has to be potential energy reference. So one more thing, like work energy and power is actually not a chapter, it's a tool which has to be, or which is used in almost all the chapters to solve problems. So in WP or in work per power energy, you will get questions from all the lessons. It can be used, like it can be applied anywhere in the entire physics. Same way. So here let's assume this to be as potential energy reference, and here the potential energy is to be 0. So here the energy of the system is half mu square. This is the kinetic energy. And here the energy will be half mv square plus mg, and the length of the string is given as L. So they should be equal, or I can write it as half mu square should be equal to half mv square according to law of conservation of energy plus mgl. Now m gets cancelled out and I'm left with u square is equals to v square plus 2gl. Eventually v square becomes u square minus 2gl. This is the result. So v comes out to be root over u square minus 2gl. This is the velocity, this is the final velocity, and u is the initial velocity. You cannot subtract them directly. So what do you have to do? This is v somewhere, this is u somewhere, u vector, and this is v vector. The magnitude of v vector will be minus v somewhere here. So u minus sorry, we need to find out v minus u. Anyway, it's going to give the same result, but still v minus u will be this side somewhere here, and we have to find out v minus u, so it's going to be somewhat like this value. This will be the result. Okay, this you can find out under root this square plus this square. So if we solve it, it's going to be root over v square, which is like u square minus 2gl plus u square. Effectively it becomes u square only, so it becomes under root 2 u square minus gl, and this is the magnitude of the change in velocity. This should be the result. D. I hope we have done it correctly. Yeah. So this is the situation we are talking about, that v, u, and we need to find out the difference. So the difference is going to be this, that is under root magnitude of v square plus u square, or whatever it is. Okay. Anyway, moving to the next question. A force F is equals to minus ky I cap plus xj cap, where k is a positive constant, acts on a particle moving in the xy plane. Starting from the origin, the particle is taken along the positive x-axis to the point a comma 0, and then parallel to the y-axis to the point a comma a. The total work done by the force. See, there are two kinds of forces which we will be studying. One is called conservative forces, other is called non-conservative. So this conservative and non-conservative, in conservative forces, they are path independent. Like you take from point A to point B some object with any path, it hardly matters. Like you use path number, the blue path or the black path, it's going to be same. The work will come out to be the same. Almost all the forces which you study will be conservative in nature, but couple of them, like friction is a non-conservative force, and viscous force is a non-conservative force. These kind of forces will be non-conservative forces. Anyway, and the non-conservative forces in which the path matters, in which it matters that when we are taking, or you can say that in which the work done when we take a particular object on a closed path is non-zero. In conservative it will be 0, in non-conservative it will be non-zero. So here the question says that we have to take an object with some force starting from the origin. The particle is taken along the positive x first till a point a comma 0. That means a distance a comma 0, and then parallel to y-axis to the point a comma a. After that it has been taken parallel to the y-axis at a point a comma a. So there has been two paths, something like this. So in this situation we'll have to find out first work done by one, and then work done in the second, and then we'll have to add that. If it would have been given that the force is conservative, we could have directly calculated the the work done from here to here, and this would have given us the result. But here the situation is different. We don't know. We can find it out whether the force is conservative or not, but let's not go there. And we need to find out the work. So let's call it as W1. W1 will be nothing but F dot dr. F dot, whatever the vector is in the dr direction or in the first direction. So F dot dr. So the force is K y I cap plus x j cap dot the displacement which it is covering, basically that is in the x direction, that is only in the x direction, so I'm just marking it as dx I cap plus 0 j cap because it is not covering anything in the y direction. So this has to be integrated. If we come up with the result, we are taking the dot product, so y dx, it becomes ky dx, the integration, and kx0, that the other term becomes 0. If you check here, y is 0 in this entire path. So effectively 0 to a, in 0 to a, dx will change, but y itself is 0, so this term is going to be 0. So w1 is 0, nothing in w1. Coming on w2, we'll do again the same thing and we will get integral. This time there is this particular movement will be there, that is dy j cap, and there will not be any movement in the x, so this term will vanish this time. This term will not be there, and only this term will be there, dy. So I will have the situation x dy, and it will come out to be as kx dy, and dy is changing from y 0 here and it is here a, so 0 to a. At this, in this line, x is also something, x is not 0. Previously y was 0 here, but x here is something which is something like x in this region is going to be a, but y in this region was 0, that's why this term is 0, but here it is non-zero. So coming further, kx dy 0 to a, kx dy, the integral is going to be, x is constant which is a only, so it will come out, and dy, the integral will be y, so effectively it will again come out to be as a only, integral of dy, so it's going to be ka square. So the result should come out to be ka square. This is the work done in the movement, the net result. Anyway, so remember, in this type of problem, always you have to consider the path and you have to take care of the vectors. That's very important. A spring of force constant K is cut into two pieces such that one piece is double the length of the other, then the long piece will have a force constant. We had a spring. In spring, always remember, K is the spring constant, L is the length. KL has to be constant. You cut it, you tear it apart, you do whatever with it, but K into L, the product of K into L has to be constant. What they are doing, they're cutting it into two pieces, and these two pieces are not equal. These two pieces are in the ratio of 2:1. Those who don't know ratio proportion, you can simply use this trick. Say for example, anything is cut into two ratios, x is to y. You add both the numbers, x plus y, and cut the spring or cut the particular thing into that many parts. Say for example 2 plus 1, so you cut the spring into 3 different parts. If you're cutting the spring into 3 different parts, 3 equal parts, say for example this is L, so each part will be L by 3. Now it's saying 2:1, so give 2 to one and 1 to another. So basically I have one spring with the length 2L by 3 and another spring with the length L by 3. So the K into L has to be constant. So K into L has to be constant. 2L by 3, KL, it was initially KL. So can I see that it should be 3K by 2, the spring constant, and it should be 3K. Just that's it. Because if you multiply 3K into L by 3, that will be coming out to be as KL, whatever the number is, let's say P. So it will come out to be as P. And in the same way, 3K by 2 into 2L by 3 will again come out to be as P. So 3K by 2 and 3K, which then the long piece will have a force constant. Long piece will have a force constant of 3K by 2. Remember, if a spring is cut in n equal parts, each part has a spring constant Nk, because each length is L by n. So effectively Nk means KL has to be constant. Okay. A wind power word generator converts wind energy into an electrical energy. Assume that the generator converts a fixed fraction of the wind energy intercepted by its blade into electrical energy. Okay. For wind speed v, the electrical power output will be proportional to. Okay. We have to find out the proportionality or dependency of power on v. Dependency on the function of v. Remember this thing, this situation, that when we are considering that we need to find out the power. So basically we need to find out force times velocity. For finding the force, we need to find out the change in momentum. Like when the wind power generator is moving, so in that case it is converting the wind energy into electrical energy. So the wind particles, whatever it is actually hitting the particles with some velocity. So that velocity, basically that force is required. How many particles are hitting, that matters. With what speed they are hitting, that matters. So we will do a little of theoretical portion here. If you try to understand that mass into velocity is nothing but momentum, this you know, and if you take the rate of momentum, that is dp by dt, that gives you the force according to second law of motion. So if you actually need to, like, if you take the rate of this, so it becomes mdv by dt, that is the force, and no difference. But think of it, see for example, you have a situation and this is some area and this is some volume. This is some something inside. So in that region there is some volume. So I can say that area into length is the volume of this term, and volume per unit time, this is velocity. L by T is basically velocity. So volume per unit time is nothing but AV. Okay, now try to understand. See, for example, air is coming and this much air is moving out every second. So can I say that area into velocity is nothing but volume flow rate? Volume flow rate. This is the velocity with which it is moving. So volume flow rate, this much volume is moving every second or every unit time. So volume flow rate is what we call as AV. Number of particles in this will be too many and all. This is the volume flow rate. If we multiply the volume with the density into rho, what do we get? Mass flow rate. This will be the mass flow rate. That means this much mass is moving every moment. And mass into velocity gives me the momentum. Momentum. So this will be momentum flow rate, and rate of change in momentum is nothing but force. So if we multiply it with this, that means AV square rho is nothing but force, which is being applied on the particular blades every moment of time. And force times velocity gives me the power, which is utilized here. So force times velocity will give me the power, and effectively it will come out to be, I can say that power is going to be proportional to V cube. This is a very important result. It is also used in fluids, so remember that. And basically we are talking about here the wind generator, and wind itself, that means the air itself, is nothing but fluid. A particle which is constrained to move along the x-axis is subjected to a force in the same direction, which varies with the distance x of the particle from the origin as fx is equals to minus kx plus x cube. You have been given fx, that means force as a function of f. And here k and a are positive constants. Even k is positive and a is positive. Okay. For x greater than or equal to 0, the functional form of the potential energy. Okay, we need to basically plot, or we need to find out that which plot resembles the potential energy. Which plot resembles the potential energy. Now you need to know this, that fx is nothing but minus du over dx. That means the slope of the negative slope of potential energy curve is nothing but the force. The negative slope of the potential energy curve is nothing but the force. This is the ux portion. This is the ux here, and with respect to x, and this is the equation of the force. So if we check force equation at x is equals to 0, we will get 0, x0 ax plus cube 0, so f0 is 0. That means slope of ux curve at x is equals to 0 should be 0. Here the slope is non-zero. If you check, here the slope is non-zero at x is equals to 0. Here the slope may be 0, and here also the slope may be 0. That means these two options are automatically crossed. Now the question is B or D. This is another part. In this situation, if you see, the slope is increasing first and then it is going in this direction. That means slope is positive first and then it is going negative. Okay, slope is positive first. Here also the slope is positive, and after that it is going something negative. Okay, so basically the same things. So let's try to find out now the potential energy. If we do f dx in the negative form, we will get the potential energy. So if we do the f dx, we'll get kx square by 2, negative obviously, plus ax to the power 4 by 4 with the minus sign. It will come as minus because negative. Okay, this is the potential energy. Now if you see, for x larger values, u is 0 for you can find out the value of x for whenever u is 0. You can even find out the maximum and minimum value by differentiating it. Another factor is, if x will increase, if x is less than 1, then x square is greater than x to the power 4. So this term is dominating and this term is recessive. But when x is greater than 1, then x square is less than x to the power 4. 1 is a very crucial number. It's the critical point. So x square is less than x to the power 4. Now in this situation, when x square is less than x to the power 4, so basically this term is going to dominate. So therefore the result should come out to be negative and not positive. So you should go negative when x will be more than some value, whatever the value is. So it will come out to be as negative after some time from this point when x is going to be more than 1, because x to the power 4 is going to be dominating. So this result cannot be there because there is no negative resemblance, so only option D is left. In these kind of questions, you don't need to actually plot the curve. You have to just verify which one is correct. You can even do by elimination. In fact, most of the option gets cancelled out with elimination. An ideal spring with spring constant K is hung from the ceiling and a block of mass. There is a ceiling and a block of mass M is attached to its lower end. The mass is released with the spring initially and stretched then the maximum extension. Okay, it's something like this situation. Say for example, you have a spring over there and you attach a mass to it. Now, you have held the mass till now. You have given it support, but you release it. Now what will happen? The mass will go down, then it will come up, then again it will go down, then come up, and it will start oscillating. It will start moving. The problem here, like maximum people, what they do, they try to balance out the force. Kx, mg, and kx should be equal to mg obviously for the rest situation. So x will come out to be mg by k, and they mark mg by k, and that is wrong. Because this x is equals to mg by k is going to give you the mean position. That means when you release the spring, the mass goes down further, then it comes back, then again it goes down further, then it comes back. There will be, after some time, it will hold, it will be held at a certain point. That point will be x is equals to mg by k, and not the point where it first went. So how will we calculate the point where it first went? So let's assume this is the spring, this is the natural length, this is the mass, and in the final situation the spring is somewhere here extended, and let this length to be something like assume it to be L. Okay, here the velocity is 0 initially. Finally, when it started to return, then also the velocity is 0. So there is no change in kinetic energy, that is 0. According to work energy theorem, change in kinetic energy is equals to total work done. So what is the total work done? What is the total work which has been done here? The work by gravity, which is mg times L, plus the work by the spring force, that is half k L square. This will be the result. In the opposite direction, obviously, so it's going to be negative. If we solve it and try to find out the value of L, we will get half KL square is equals to mgl. L to L will get cancelled out and we'll get the result 2 mg by k, and this is the actual result. This is the extension. A simple pendulum is oscillating without damping when the displacement of the bob is less than the maximum. Its acceleration vector A is currently shown in the figure. When we talk about a simple pendulum, we have this situation, and actually a simple pendulum does nothing, but it traces the path of a circle because it acts as a radius. Whatever we say that the oscillation is small or not, but still this traces the path of a circle. And when it traces the path of a circle, obviously there will be a centripetal acceleration, AC, and there will be a tangential acceleration because the body is sometimes coming down, going away from the and all. So basically this will be the tangential acceleration. The question here is asking, a simple pendulum is oscillating without damping. There is no damping when the displacement of the bob is less than maximum. That means it is somewhere here. Still the centripetal acceleration and the other one, the tangential acceleration will be there. Its acceleration vector A is currently shown in the in which figure? Now this is AC, this is AT, they are at 90 degree with each other, so there will be some resultant for both of these. That should come out to be somewhat around here. Now just we don't know where will it go, but it cannot go the opposite side, so let's check the options. One is along the row, cannot possible because only AC is representing. One is perpendicular to this, again not possible because we are talking about, even if it is not perpendicular, let the angle to be obtuse, that means they are talking about even more than this. The result cannot come this side. Coming over here, this is a possibility, this is also not a possibility. So these three are not a possibility, this is the only possible thing we have. So basically this will be the result. When they talk about the net acceleration vector, you need to check whether the AC and AT both are there or not. A bob of mass m is suspended by a massless string of length L. The horizontal velocity v at a position A is just sufficient to make it reach the point B. Okay, yeah, this is the situation what I was talking about. When you hit it, the velocity is just sufficient to take it to reach point B. The angle theta at which the speed of the bob is half of that at A satisfies. At this point, it has been mentioned that the velocity is half, and at this point the velocity is whatever it is, let's say v, and here it is v by 2. So the question is, what is the situation in which in what situation of theta this will be satisfied? Let's try to find it out. Apply the results. If we make a curve here or make a perpendicular, and this will be the case, the length is given as L, this is the total length L, this is the point where the velocity is v, here the velocity is v by 2, but here if I consider even this as the reference of potential energy, I'll get half mv square, the kinetic energy potential is 0, should be equal to half mv by 2 ka square, means v square by 4, plus we need to find this height, because then only we'll be able to calculate the value. Let's assume this angle to be theta, which is already given, sorry. So it is going to be, this is L, this is also L, this is also L, and the component of this is going to be L cos theta. So therefore this is going to be L minus L cos theta. And if it is L minus L cos theta, I'll get mg L minus L cos theta. I think we can find the value of cos theta from here. M will get cancelled throughout. We will get v square, if we multiply the entire term with 2, v square is equals to v square by 4 plus 2g L minus L cos theta. This should be the result. And we need to find the value of theta, like on what value of theta it satisfies. V square minus v square by 4 will come out to be, v square minus v square by 4 will come out to be 3v square by 4 equal to 2gl into 1 minus cos theta. Okay, this velocity I told you that the minimum velocity they have mentioned here, the velocity v at position A is just sufficient to make it is root 5gl. This is the velocity, which is root 5 GL. So we'll get 3 into 5 GL by 4 should be equal to 2 GL into 1 minus cos theta. GL will get cancelled out, 15 by 4, 2. So it should come out to be 15 by 8, 1 minus cos theta. So therefore cos theta will come out to be as 15 by 8, 1 minus, so cos theta 1 minus 15 by 8, 8 minus 15 minus 7 by 8. This is the result. This will be going around cos 180 is minus 1, that means cos pi is minus 1. This is negative, so basically second quadrant, third quadrant, second or third quadrant. Third quadrant there are no values, so this cannot be possible. First quadrant, this cannot be possible. First quadrant. These are the two results. Cos theta is equals to minus 7 by 8. Cos pi is minus 1. Yeah, cos pi is minus 1, so it's going to be close to the pi wala term, close to the pi term. So it's going to be pi to 3 pi by 4 instead of pi by 2 to 3 pi by 4. Another way of finding it out, cos theta equal to minus 7 by 8 will come out to be around 150 or 160 degrees. You can solve it accordingly. It will come up, the result will come out to be between pi to 3 pi by 4. From the graphical situations, you can find it, it will come out to be somewhere here. Anyway. Okay, moving to the next question. A block is attached to two unstretched springs. How many questions are left? There are many. Yeah. Where were we? Okay. A block B is attached to the two unstretched spring S1 and S2 with spring constant K and 4K respectively. There are two blocks K and 4K respectively. Is the there's one block and these are the two springs having spring constant. This has K and the other one is 4K. Please remember to read the names. S1 is K and S2 is 4K. I was about to write like K and 4K. The other ends are attached to identical supports M1 and M2, not attached to the walls. The springs and supports have negligible mass. There's no friction anywhere. There's no friction at all. M1 and M2 are not attached to the walls. So basically they can move, but they don't have the mass. The block B is displaced towards wall 1 by small distance x. Okay. Block B is displaced towards wall 1 by a small distance x. This has been displaced. So there will be a potential energy stored in this that will be half k x square. Okay. And the block returns and moves a maximum distance y towards wall 2. After that, it will obviously come back, and when it will come back, so it will cross the mean position and will try to push the other spring S2 with the same energy. So when it will try to push the other block with the same energy, this energy is going to be equal to the energy which will be given to the second spring, and that spring is going to be half. The spring constant is 4k, and I don't know what displacement it makes. The block returns and moves a maximum distance y. Okay, it says that it moves to the maximum distance y, so it's going to be half into 4k into y square. Displacement x and y are measured with respect to the equilibrium position of the block B. That's okay. The ratio y by x is what? Half k y by x should come out to be 1 by 2. Yeah. See, it's such a big question, but it's very easy. So sometimes it happens. Like they will make the question look complicated, but it is actually not very complicated. It is damn easy. You just have to equate the energies. Whatever energy is being stored in this, the same energy will be transferred to the other spring, and that's going to be different. The spring constant is different, so obviously the displacement is going to be different. So that's it. That should be the result. The work done on a particle of mass m by a force is given. Again, the force is given to you, and in the I cap and J cap format, perfectly fine. Of appropriate dimension, when the particle is taken from the point A0 to the point 0A along a circular path of radius A about the origin in the xy plane. Now they have given that we have a circle with origin and radius A, and there is a particle which is taken from A0, which is this point, to 0A, which is this point, on this path. So the question here is asking is that what is the work done? Yeah, the force is given to you. You need to find out the work done. Now the force may look like very complicated to you, kx by x square plus y square 3 by 2 and all, so the integration will be a challenge. But if you look a little carefully, They have told that it is moving on a circular path of radius a and center as origin. So I can say x square plus y square is a square. This is the equation of the circle. You have x square plus y square already here, so it's going to be constant. So the work is going to be f dot dr again, which will be k x over x square plus y square, or something I can say as a cube I cap plus y over a cube j cap dot dr. It can be anything like dx I cap plus dy j cap. Yep. So k by a cube x dx integration plus y dy integration. This should be the result. In this situation, when we are talking about here x dx plus y dy, x is changing from a to 0 and y is changing from 0 to a. Yeah, is this the case? Yes, y is changing from 0 to a. So if we solve it, x dx, this is going to be x square by 2 and it will come out to be minus a square by 2, and this will come out to be plus a square by 2. This will vanish out. The work done will come out to be 0. 90% cases mein result, and the result comes out to be a 0 only. So this will come out to be a 0 because both of these will get cancelled out. Most of the time when in JEE Advanced, if the option is 0, in physics specifically, the chances to get it as 0 is more. A tennis ball is dropped on a horizontal smooth surface, and a tennis ball is dropped on a horizontal smooth surface. It bounces back to its original position after hitting the surface. The force on the ball during the collision is proportional to the length of the compression of the ball. The force on the ball is proportional to the length of the compression, whatever it is. The ball will obviously get compressed, right? So which one of the following sketches describe the variation of kinetic energy K with time t most appropriately? The figures are only illustrative and not to scale. Okay, perfectly fine. The force on the ball during the collision, which one of the following sketches define? A tennis ball is dropped, so initially the kinetic energy is going to be 0. In all the options, kinetic energy is 0, so that option is not useful. When the ball will hit the surface, its velocity will vanish, like it will compress and then it will rise again. So in that time the velocity will vanish to 0 and then it will rise again. So here if you see, the velocity is constant. This cannot be there. So I have now options A, B, D. Kinetic energy versus time. They say that which one of the following, the force on the ball during the collision is proportional to the length. Force is proportional to the length. The kinetic energy is going to be half mv square, and as we have dropped the ball, so it's going to be half m v square is equals to u square plus 2as, so effectively 2g L, or I can find out v is equals to u plus at, so gt. So I can write it as g square t square, because velocity is equals to u plus at, the ball has been dropped from initial velocity 0, acceleration is g, t is time. So half m g square t square, half m constant, g square constant, so k is proportional to t square. Or I can say that kinetic energy is nothing but some constant times t square. I can say y is equals to some constant into x square. So this is a situation of parabola. This cannot be possible. Now these two. Remember the side in the parabolic equation y is equals to x square or whatever, the term on which square is, the mouth of the parabola does not open that side. The term on the on which the square is, say for example this is x, this is y, so this is going to be x square is equals to 4ay. No, sorry, y square is equals to 4ax. The mouth of the parabola does not open towards the sign, towards the term which is squared. This is a general result, like how I remember it. So here it is, y is equals, kinetic energy is equals to ct square. So the mouth of the parabola cannot open towards time axis. If you check this, this is opening towards the time axis. So this gets cancelled out. The only option left is this. First the kinetic energy increases, then it falls to 0, then again it increases, and then finally it vanishes. This should be the result. A wire which passes through the hole in a small bead is bent in the form of a quarter of a circle, and the wire is fixed vertically on the ground as shown in the figure. The bead is released from near the top of the wire and it slides along the wire without friction. Okay, there is a bead and that bead is sliding along the wire. This bead here is sliding along the wire somewhere like this. And you have been asked, as the bead moves from A to B, the force it applies on the wire. The force the bead applies on the wire. Okay, not the force which is being applied on the bead. This is very important. Let's try to find it out. Let's say at a certain time the bead is somewhere here. Let's assume it to be somewhere here. Let this angle to be theta. Okay, there will be a force in the downward direction which will be mg, and there will be, it's frictionless or what? A wire which passes through the hole in a small bead is bent in the form of a quarter of a circle. The wire is fixed vertically on the ground. The bead is raised from near the top of the wire and slides along the wire without friction. There is no friction at all. So friction is not there, but when the bead is pushing the wire down, so in that case, I'll assume some normal reaction will be there because the bead is pushing it down. Okay, and obviously the bead is moving with some velocity, so let's assume the velocity to be some v. If there is no friction, the potential energy it had somewhat mgr should be equal to the kinetic energy which it gained, I think. Yeah, half mv square plus the distance which it has lost, that is also the case. So if this is r, this hole is r, this is r also, so this is r cos theta, so distance it is lost is r minus r cos theta, the same thing which we did before, mgr into 1 minus cos theta. Okay, so from here m will get cancelled out throughout. What can we know? Okay, okay, let's keep it as one situation, we'll discuss it later. In this case it is moving on a circular path, so there has to be a force, like there will be a component of mg in the towards the center side and one towards the other side. So normally that side mg cos theta is towards the center side, so there will be net force which will provide the centripetal, that will be mg cos theta minus n should provide the mv square by r. This should be the case, and we don't have mv square by r, but yes, now here if you see, we have mv square here. If we divide the whole term with r, we will get mv square by r. From here we'll get the result. So if we try to solve it out, we'll get mgr minus mgr into 1 minus cos theta whole multiplied by 2, so that 2 cancels, and mv square, if we have divided by r, so divide r by both sides. So effectively you will get mv square by r as mg common, in fact 2 also common, 2 mg will get common out, 1 minus 1 plus cos theta, so 2 mg cos theta. Put it over there, this should be equal to 2 mg cos theta. So it will come out to be as mg cos theta minus n is equals to mv square by r equal to 2 mg cos theta. So this term will come this side and effectively it will become mg cos theta, that is going to be 2 mg cos theta and mg cos theta minus n. What did we do some mistake here? Mgr is equals to half mv square plus mgr into 1 minus cos theta. What did we do? Mgr was the potential energy, the kinetic energy was 0 at that time, there was no movement, that is the Mgr. This should change, this should come out to be as equal to, okay, the kinetic energy will be the change in potential energy. So Mgr minus Mgr into 1 minus cos theta should be equal to half mv square. This is correct, this is fine. mg cos theta minus n mgr 2 mgr minus 2 by 2 mgr. The change in potential energy will give me the kinetic energy. So the potential energy at this point will be mg. Okay, fine, got it. This potential energy at this point will be mgr cos theta. Mgr cos theta. This is the change of the distance, right? This is the initial distance r, final distance is r cos theta. So the change will be mgr minus mgr cos theta. The change will come out to be mgr into 1 minus cos theta. So instead of this, it should be mgr cos theta. And therefore, half mv square should come out to be mgr into 1 minus cos theta. This should be the result. Sorry, this should not be the result. Okay, from here if we find out the kinetic energy, it's going what did we have to find out? Mv square by r. So it's going to be mv square by r is going to be mv square by r is going to be, that 2 will go the other side, 2 mg into 1 minus cos theta. This should be the case. So mv square by r should come out to be 2 mg into 1 minus cos theta. 2 mg into 1 minus cos theta. Okay, it has become a blunder. Let's remember this. Mg cos theta minus n should come out to be 2 mg into 1 minus cos theta. This is the case. From here you will get cos theta, mg cos theta 2 mg minus 2 mg cos theta. This side we have mg cos theta, so it will come out to mg cos theta minus n. So it will come out to be mg cos theta minus n. Mg cos theta minus n should be equal to 2 mg into minus 2 mg cos theta. Yeah, this will come this side. 3 mg cos theta should be equal to n plus 2 mg, or n should come out to be 3 mg cos theta minus 2 mg. If we take mg common, we'll get 3 cos theta minus 2. Yeah, or I can also write it as mg by 3. If we multiply and divide it by 3, it's going to be 3 mg into cos theta minus 2 by 3. So for n to be positive, cos theta should be greater than 2 by 3. This should be the case. And for n to be positive, cos theta should be greater than 2 by 3. And cos theta is greater than 2 by 3 when angle is 0 and somewhat close to 0 only. So that means initially the n will be positive. So n is the force which is being applied on the bead. What the bead is applying, that is towards it. But when it will go further down, the angle will increase, and correspondingly that n will become negative. That means now the bead is applying the force in the opposite direction. So initially radially inward, and after that radially outward. This will be the result. Yeah. A small block of mass. Okay, I'll just come up. Give me a moment. Yeah, sorry, I had a call. A small block of mass 1 kg. Okay, a small block of, let's finish it quickly. A small block of mass 1 kg is released from rest on the top of a rough track. The track is circular arc of radius 40 meter. Okay, something has been released. The block slides along the track without toppling, and a frictional force acts on it, the direction opposite to the instantaneous velocity. The work done in overcoming the friction up to the point Q as shown in figure. We need to find out W friction. How much work the friction has done, or how much work has been done to overcome the friction. So we applied change in kinetic energy, that will be equal to work done by friction plus work done by gravity. Let's do it. Change in kinetic energy is small block of mass 1 kg is released initially 0 from the rest of the track is circular arc of radius, we don't know, let's assume the velocity be v. So half mv square should be equal to work done by friction, we don't know what is it. Now work done in overcoming the friction up to the point Q as shown in the figure is 150. This is given. This is 150 plus W gravity, that will be mg r. This is the work done by the gravity, so effectively it should be mg r. This is r cos 30, r sin 30, should be, yeah, r sin 30. So it will come out to be as mg by 2, mg r by 2. Mass is 1, g is 10, obviously. Let's assume it to be 10. Radius is 40, so make it like 20. It's going to be 10, 40, 400, 200. So 150 half plus 200. Work done by friction will be negative, obviously. So half mv square is going to be 50. So v square is going to be, mass is 1, so 100. So v will come out to be 10 meter per second. This will be the result. The magnitude of the normal reaction that acts on the block at point Q is, you can find out the normal reaction. This is the normal, mg will act this side. There will be one component of mg along this, another component of mg along this. Just take the angles. This is going to be, this is 30, so this is going to be 30 also. So this will be 60. So mg cos 60, mg n minus mg cos 60 is equals to, apply this centripetal, n minus mg cos 60 is going to be mv square by r. You know the velocity, you know everything. You can find out the value of n. Moving further, a light inextensible string that goes over a smooth pulley as shown in the figure connects two blocks of masses. You can try the previous problem. In case you have a problem, you can drop a comment below. I'll explain it to you again. A light inextensible string that goes over a smooth fixed pulley as shown in the figure connects two blocks of masses 0.36 and 0.72. Find the work done in joule by the string on the block of mass 0.36 during the first second after the system is released. Downward it is 2 mg, upward it is, there is a tension, mg, tension. Let's assume the system is moving downwards this side, A, so I can say that 2 mg minus tension is equals to 2 ma, and T minus mg is going to be ma. So if we add both of these, we get mg comes out to be 3 ma and A will come out to be g by 3. This is the acceleration. We need to find out the work done in joules by the string, that means tension, into on 0.36 kg. 0.36 is which one? This one is 0.36, m is 0.36. So it is moving up with acceleration g by 3, and we need to find out the work done. Work done is force into displacement. Force is time t, tension which we don't know. If we know the acceleration g by 3, we can find out the tension. 2 mg minus g by 3, 2 mg minus t is equals to 2 mg by 3. So T will come out to be 2 minus 2 mg by 3, effectively 6, 4 mg by 3 or 2 mg by 3 only. T minus mg is equals to T ma plus mg, so mg by 3 plus mg, 4 mg by 3. T will come this side, 2 will come this side, 3, 6, 4 mg by 3. Yeah, tension will come out to be 4 mg by 3. So tension into displacement, 4 mg by 3 into displacement. Displacement initially was 0 in how many seconds? First second. So v square is equals to u square plus 2s. So 2 g by 3 into s. Sorry. Tension into displacement, that will be the work done. This is the tension. Displacement you can find out when you are in rush. You always make mistakes. V square is equals to u square plus 2as. And it's going to be 0 plus 2 into acceleration is g by 3 into displacement is one second, calm down. Find the work done in joules by the string on the block of mass 0.36 kg during the first second after the system is released. So we need, like, in 1 second how much the system has moved. What do we have? We have the acceleration, s equal to ut plus half at square. S equal to ut plus half at square. So half a is g by 3, tension time is 1 only. So it's going to be 4 mg by 3 into g by 6. 2, 3. Mass is given to you as 0.36. So effectively it becomes 0.36 into 100 divided by 9. It comes out to be 4. Are we correct? A light inextensible string that goes over a smooth pulley. Find the work done in joules by the string on the block of mass 0.36 kg during the first second after the system is released from rest. Work done is equals to tension into displacement. Displacement will be 2as, 2 into a into s. Obviously it's going to be a smooth pulley, so displacement is going to be a is g by 3, acceleration, displace time, s is equals to half ut plus half at square, so half a g by t and g by 3, that is g by 6, 2, okay, 2 here, 2 also will come here, right? 2 mg by 3, so effectively it comes out to be 8 is the correct result. Okay, sorry for the end. I'm actually in a bit of hurry. Thanks for watching. Thanks for giving your time. If you think that it can help anybody, please share it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.